Tampa Bay is like no place else.
Wait, you can't recycle the bag. You have to throw it away.
Proper recycling keeps it that way for everyone. Bags tangle in machinery and can bring sorting efforts to a halt.
No bags.
Trash the bags and keep our recycling program moving forward.
No, Mom, look. No plastic bags.
Do your part to keep our recycling bag-free. Trash the tanglers or return them to participating retailers. For more information, visit tampabayrecycles.org.
These are the jobs you may not see every day, but just know we're working hard to make Hillsborough County a better place to live, work, and play. Subscribe to our YouTube page for more great county-related videos, only on HTV.
Don't let mosquitoes ruin your day. Fight the bite by removing standing water on your property. Standing water of any kind is a breeding ground for mosquitoes. Do your part and help reduce the mosquito population.
Visit hcfl.gov/fightthebite.
Hey, would you do me a favor? Grab your phone or smart device and open up that camera. Then point it right here at the QR code. Do you have it? I'll wait a second. When you see the link pop up on your screen, give it a tap. You ready? Boom! Welcome to the Hillsborough County official YouTube channel. We've got all sorts of videos here, all about what makes our community such an awesome place. From local events and community highlights to what's in the perfect Cuban sandwich. We've got it all. We're always adding new things, so while you're here, be sure to subscribe and hit that notification bell so you'll never miss a new video. Here's that QR code again, just in case you missed it. Go ahead and check it out. Ooh. This must have fallen out of that video. This really is the perfect Cuban sandwich.
Welcome to a meeting of your Planning Commission. the official local planning agency for the cities of Tampa, Temple Terrace, Plant City, and unincorporated Hillsborough County. The Planning Commission provides innovative leadership and long-range vision that contributes to the creation of a thriving, prosperous community that offers opportunity, fairness, and choice in how we live, move, learn, work, and play. For more information about the Planning Commission, please call 813-272-5940. Follow us on social media or visit our website at planhillsborough.org.
Welcome to the February 10th, 2025 public hearing of the Planning Commission on City of Tampa Comprehensive Plan Amendments. We thank you for attending this meeting. Your comments and participation are encouraged. For those attending in person and wishing to speak on any agenda item, please sign the register at the rear of the room and turn off any devices that may be a distraction. To minimize feedback in the audio, all online participants in the meeting will be muted until it is their opportunity to speak. Planning commissioners should unmute themselves to indicate that they would like to speak. Please be sure to state your name at the beginning of your remarks for the benefit of the clerk. There will be an opportunity for members of the public to provide comments. When your name is called, you will be unmuted when it is your turn to speak. Please wait until the chair calls on you to begin speaking. State your name at the beginning of your comments and adhere to the time limits. If anyone has difficulties or is watching via HTV and would like to provide comments to be included in the record for the local government hearing, please email them to planner@plancom.org. For those of you who are not familiar with our process, the meeting will be conducted as follows. The agenda item will be introduced. Staff will give their presentation with a 15-minute time limit. The applicant will be given the opportunity to make a presentation with a 15-minute time limit. Following presentations, members of the public may address the Planning Commission when recognized by the chairman. Public comment will be heard for 3 minutes per person. The applicant will be afforded a 3-minute period for rebuttal response. Planning commissioners will then ask questions. Public comment will be closed, and then upon a motion, a second, and discussion, a vote will be taken. To all participants, please note that tonight's hearing concerns proposed changes to the comprehensive plan. Presentations should not include matters related to zoning applications and site plans that are not before the commission. Zoning conditions are not relevant to plan amendments and may not be considered by the Planning Commission. The Planning Commission's purview in making a recommendation is limited to consistency or inconsistency with the comprehensive plan. With that, I'd like to ask the clerk to please go ahead and call roll.
Good evening. Bowden?
Here.
Buzza? Cardenas?
Here.
Kona?
Here.
Kress? Lauk?
Here.
Saria? Sieben? Orton?
Here.
Rodriguez?
Here.
Chair Joseph?
Here.
You have a quorum, sir.
All right. Our first two agenda items, 2A and 2B, were continued. 2A, TACPA 24-17 Comprehensive Plan Map Amendment, 2602 East 4th Avenue and associated parcels was continued. And also 2B, TACPA 24-18 Comprehensive Plan Map Amendment, 84 Davis Boulevard. So we won't be hearing those tonight. So we will jump down to item 2C, TACPA 24-19 Comprehensive Plan Map Amendment, 706 South Moody Avenue. And the presenter is Emily Phelan.
Good evening, Emily Phelan, Planning Commission staff. The next two items are adjacent to each other and will be heard separately. The First Amendment is privately initiated, and the Second Amendment is publicly initiated by Planning Commission staff. This item is TACPA 2419, located at 706 South Moody Avenue. This is privately initiated, small scale, and approximately 0.32 acres. The request is to go from residential 10 to community mixed use 35. This is the general location map. It's located within the South Tampa Planning District in the Parkland Estates neighborhood. This is an aerial of the subject site, which is outlined in pink, and the blue outline is the adjacent plan amendment that you will hear next, TACPA 2420. The surrounding area is, the subject site is currently in office, and the surrounding area is a mix of commercial and residential uses. The commercial uses can be found along Swan Avenue and South Howard Avenue, which transitions to single-family detached and multifamily further south of Howard. And directly to the west of the subject site is a place of religious assembly. The subject site is within proximity of 2 HART bus stops. One is located at the corner of Howard and Swan, and the other is located further west along Swan Avenue. And both Swan and Howard Avenue are collector roadways. This is looking at the subject site. This is looking west along South Moody Avenue at the place of religious assembly, and the subject site is behind the photographer. This is looking northeast at the intersection of South Howard Avenue and West Swan Avenue. The subject site is to the left. This is looking southeast from South Moody Avenue. The subject site can be seen here as the white structure. And further north, this is the structure that's at the corner of Howard and Swan and the multifamily that was pointed out earlier in the aerial. This is the adopted future land use map. The subject site is outlined in black and represented with the residential 10 designation, which can be found to the north, south, and west of the subject site. Along Swan Avenue and Howard Avenue, the pink is the community mixed use 35 designation, and the red is the community commercial 35 designation. As you can see, the subject site is directly adjacent to community mixed use 35. This is the proposed future land use map. Again, the subject site is outlined in black and represented with the community mixed use 35 designation. Under the existing residential 10 designation, the subject site could be considered for 3 dwelling units or slightly over 4,800 square feet of non-residential uses if locational criteria was met. Under the proposed community mixed use 35 designation, the subject site can be considered for 11 dwelling units or slightly over 27,800 square feet of residential or non-residential uses. The proposed amendment would result in the potential introduction of multifamily and commercial general uses on the site and would increase the potential residential and non-residential square footage allowed. Planning Commission staff found the proposed amendment consistent with multiple aspects of the comprehensive plan. The proposed change would promote density supportive of transit and a mixture of uses. Again, as stated on the aerial, the subject site is within proximity of 2 HART bus stops. A promotion of infill development on underutilized land and promoting housing choices within proximity to employment, civic uses, and transit corridors. And the proposed change would be compatible with the neighborhood as it would provide a cohesive transition on the site. With that, Planning Commission staff recommends that the proposed map amendment be found consistent with the goals, objectives, and policies of the Tampa Comprehensive Plan. And this concludes my presentation.
Thank you. Does the applicant have a presentation?
Yes, they do.
Good evening, Alex Shaler, 400 North Ashley Drive. I'm here with the plan amendment request this evening from R10 to CMU 35. To tee up my presentation, I wanted to start with what I think is a pretty exemplary aerial. Our subject site is outlined in the magenta color and pink. As you can see, it is located within a sea of turquoise, the turquoise color being non-residential uses. This is just off the intersection of Swan and Howard Avenue. For those of you that are familiar, the Panera Bread is the building in white. This is functionally located within Panera's parking lot. Existing images of the site today, Emily showed some of these already. This one in the bottom left corner is looking directly at the site from Moody Avenue. The top right corner is looking from the parking lot. And then in the bottom right corner, this view is from Swan with the building, the white one there in the back corner. So these requests by nature are very high level, and I think that this request specifically is even more high level. It poses this single question, and that question is, does a single family home belong on this parcel? And I think that that is a very logical, straightforward answer, but In the event that this structure today, it's currently an office, in the event that this is destroyed at any kind of major casualty, this site is designated as R10. And the R10 uses on the screen, as you can see, single-family detached houses, limited townhomes, so maybe a townhome development, very, very small parcel, 0.3 acres, a duplex, an accessory unit. We strongly believe that none of those uses belong here. Again, like I said, essentially in the middle of a parking lot. So what we're proposing this evening is a request to CMU 35. That is the lowest density, as you all are aware, mixed use land category. I think in the future this would have been an awesome candidate for a commercial restricted category, but we're not there yet. But this is something that in the future, and this does not weigh on your decision this evening, but there are no imminent redevelopment plans for this. There is not a PD application tied to this site. We just want the flexibility in the future to have some other commercial uses here, should this office redevelop. A list of some justification. This is not located within the coastal high hazard area. It's also located 150 feet from the transit emphasis corridor of Howard Avenue. As Emily mentioned, there is a HART bus stop there on the corner as well, so it's located proximate to transit, surrounded by non-residential development in the built environment. And as mentioned, we don't think that single family is a compatible use here on this site, given the built environment. There are a host of policies and goals and objectives in the comprehensive plan that support this application. I won't read through all of these individually. They are in the staff report. But kind of the major kickers here that, we should promote these ranges of uses in proximity to each other, retail uses, employment generators, as it is in office today, and that this CMU 35 would be an appropriate transition to some of those R10 categories in the neighborhood that are compatible for single family housing. With that, the Planning Commission staff did find this application consistent, and I am happy to answer any questions should you have any. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, we had one individual sign up for the public comment on this one. So, Annalise M.
Annalise Meyer, 2307 West Bristol Avenue, Parkland Estates neighborhood. I live directly south of this parcel. Can we have a map of the parcel put back up, please? And sorry, I'm a little late to the game because I was not notified. I am on the good neighbor list. I don't know why I wasn't notified. I'm not in the circle of footage. Thank you. Moody is a dead-end street. It is a non-conforming dead-end street, meaning it is just a dead end. There is no turnaround on it. What people do is they go to this apartment complex, which is right here, and turn around. My house is right here. This street also flooded horribly in both the hurricanes. It was a river in our second hurricane, Milton. This is a high flood area, and that needs to be repaired first before we do any land use changes to this. It is not a transition area. The transition area is already right here. You already have that transition area. You have a school. This whole parcel here is school. This parcel over here are homes in my neighborhood, Parkland Estates. All of this, again, belongs to the school. It will never change. This is the Panera Bread with very limited parking. I don't know if any of y'all tried to get in there. A lot of people park across the street and walk over because there is not enough parking right now. They park at this office building too. We would like to see it left the same designation it is right now because it is not ready to be overbuilt. And we believe this whole corridor is way overbuilt as it is. The city does plan to perhaps put in culverts, tearing up Howard in the next few years, and all of this area. It will not be compatible with any new building whatsoever. The streets here are at, I believe, 4 times capacity what they are. It would be very hard to come out of this street and make a left-hand turn. It's almost impossible. You also have a light here, you have a light here, and it backs up all the way past over to here. So I can't see why you would want to put anything more dense on this parcel when it just does not work. Your transition area is already your first line of parcels on Howard Avenue. You do have residential right back here. They can enter in and come out. And I'm not quite sure how many apartments are in there right now, 20, maybe 30, maybe not as many, but they do come out and go out that way. The school also uses this to drop off kids. The school is behind the church, and they use it to drop off kids. I can't see that little two-lane street taking any more traffic. Again, there is no way for cars to come back here and turn around. They have to back up, which even the garbage trucks for the city of Tampa have a hard time doing because there is 2 trash cans there. Thank you very much.
All right. That was the only person we had sign up for the public comment on this one, so I will give the applicant 3 minutes for rebuttal response.
Alex Shaler, 400 North Ashley Drive. I want to start with, I think, drainage. So these are all adequate concerns. A lot of us live in South Tampa. If you drive down Kennedy Boulevard after a rainstorm, you're driving through a flood of water. Would not argue that we have drainage problems. I would argue that this is the place to solve those, especially existing drainage problems. This application was, and I don't know if I can get the this on DocCam. Oh, great. Okay. This application was reviewed both by transportation and by stormwater, both of which, this way, have no objections at this time, and that's because, again, the nature of these applications are so high level. Upon any redevelopment, this will go through either a rezoning, it'll go through permitting, at which time a traffic study will be done to study the access points, to study the outflow traffic along Swan, and in which intense ICPR stormwater calculations will be done in order to determine drainage. In order to get a swift mud permit, you have to prove no net impact to the area. So like I said, I think there are mitigation measures for this. This is just a bit too high level, and like I said, very narrow scope. We're changing the color on a 2D map, and I know that sounds very simplistic, but that's the stage that we're at right now. Do we think that this site is suitable for R10 uses, which are single family detached homes, or do we think this includes a more commercial designation? And I will note too, as one final point, and I don't have a map showing this, but to the north of Swan, that CMU 35 transitions to CC 35. So this is not precedential in extending that CMU CC category further into the neighborhood. That's aligned with the block to the north. So with that, happy to answer any questions. Thanks.
Thank you. All right. To the commissioners for discussions, questions, comments, thoughts on this one. Yes, Commissioner Cardenas.
I think that if you generally know the area pretty well.
Oop, your mic, make sure your mic's close to you. Pull it down.
Sorry about that. I think that if you generally know the area pretty well, this is kind of something that we've been waiting for a long time. You know, somebody to get on this property and do something with it, because it really doesn't make sense the way it is now.
All right. Any other comments or questions, discussion items from the commissioners?
I'm just going to go ahead and echo what Commissioner Cardenas just said.
Thank you, Commissioner Seaman. All right. Are there any other comments, thoughts from the commissioners before I shut it down? All right. Then I'll go ahead and close the public comment on this one. Open it up to motions from the commissioners on this item. Commissioner Cardenas.
Yep. I'll make a motion that we agree with the county, with the Planning Commission, find this TCA CPA 24-19 consistent with
Tampa Comprehensive Plan.
Tampa Comprehensive Plan, I'm sorry.
All right. Motion of consistency finding by Commissioner Cardenas. Is there anyone else out there? Commissioner Sieben.
Second.
All right. Motion of consistency finding by Commissioner Cardenas. A second to that motion by Commissioner Sieben. Are there any thoughts, questions, or clarifications needed from the commissioners before we vote? I'm not seeing any, so we'll all signify their agreement by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed? Motion carries unanimously. All right. Our next agenda item, 2D, TACPA 24-20, Comprehensive Plan Map Amendment, 701 South Howard Avenue, and the presenter is Emily Phelan.
Emily Phelan, Planning Commission staff. This is TACPA 24-20, located at 701 South Howard Avenue. This is publicly initiated by Planning Commission staff. Planning Commission staff sent a letter to the property owners back in December. The site is small scale and it's approximately 1.5 acres. The request is to go from residential 10 and community mixed use 35 to community mixed use 35. The subject site is within the South Tampa Planning District in the Parkland Estates neighborhood. Here's an aerial of the subject site, which is outlined in the pink, and the blue outline is the plan amendment you previously heard. And again, the surrounding area is a mix of commercial uses, and it transitions to multifamily and single family further south on Howard. This is looking at the subject site. This is looking east at the subject site on South Moody Avenue. The subject site's here, and it also includes some of the parking as well. This is the plan amendment site that you previously heard, and in the background is the multifamily that was pointed out in the aerial. This is looking northeast at the intersection of South Howard Avenue and West Swan Avenue. The subject site is on the left. And this is looking west along South Moody Avenue, and the subject site is behind the photographer. And this is looking east along South Howard Avenue at that multifamily that's previously been mentioned. This is the adopted future land use map. As you can see, the subject site has the community mixed use 35 along the South Howard Avenue on the eastern portion of the site, and on the western portion of the site in orange is the residential 10. In addition to the site having 2 future land use designations, it also has 3 zoning designations. The commercial general is in the CMU 35 designation. Residential office is this little corner right here, and this is residential multifamily 24, and the residential multifamily 24 is not compatible with the residential 10 future land use designation. This is the proposed future land use map of the subject site represented with the community mixed use 35 designation. Under the existing residential 10 and community mixed use 35 designations, the subject site could be considered for 39 dwelling units or over 95,500 square feet of residential or non-residential uses. And those non-residential uses in the residential 10 would currently have to meet locational criteria. Under the proposed community mixed use 35 designation, the subject site could be considered for 52 dwelling units or just over 130,500 square feet of residential or non-residential uses. The proposed amendment would result in the potential introduction of multifamily and commercial general uses in the residential 10 portion of the site, and it would increase the potential residential and non-residential square footage allowed on the entire site. Planning Commission staff found the proposed amendment consistent with multiple aspects of the comprehensive plan. The proposed change would promote densities supportive of transit and mixture of uses. The subject site is within proximity of 2 HART bus stops. A promotion of infill development on underutilized land, and promoting housing choices within proximity to employment, civic uses, and transit corridors. The proposed change would also be compatible with the neighborhood, as it would provide a cohesive transition on the site and would allow for the zoning districts to be more compatible with the comprehensive plan designations. And with that, that concludes my presentation. Planning Commission staff recommends that the map amendment be found consistent with the goals, objectives, and policies of the Tampa Comprehensive Plan. And I'm available if you have any questions.
Thank you. All right. We had one individual sign up for the public comment on this one also. Ms. Annalise Meyer.
Annalise Meyer, 2307 West Bristol Avenue. Again, this is a tough group. I worked here 30 years ago. I wish you all would think what you're doing here, because you're definitely putting a low-lying area at risk, more risk. I would like to note again, which nobody spoke about, I was not notified. I should have been notified. I am on the Good Neighbor notice. I would like to see the notifications again because my name wasn't on that list. I did bring that up. So was not properly noticed. I know there was some problems with notifying the Parkland Estates neighborhood. There was an address change done, which was not put on the city website, but my address is there. So I am complaining about this, and also you received notice that there's an ARC meeting tonight. How convenient that this is the same night, because the Hyde Park people do have a problem with this. Anybody in South Tampa that travels this route has a problem with this. So I would urge you to reconsider this, keep it the way it is. Do not change the comp plan for this. Thank you so very much.
Thank you, Ms. Meyer. All right. 3 minutes period for response.
Emily Phelan, Planning Commission staff. We did comply with the noticing requirements. We sent it out to the 300 feet, which is set out in our procedures manual. And we sent it out to the neighborhood organizations pulled from the City of Tampa's website. So if you have any questions on that, I'm free to answer anything you'd like.
Thank you. All right. To the planning commissioners for questions, discussion items, Commissioner Lauk.
One thing that immediately leaps off the page is we don't have an applicant, and this is a publicly initiated amendment on behalf of a private landowner. So can you walk me through how we got to this point? And I don't see any communication in the package from the landowner, the landlord entity. Is the landlord on board with this? The landowner, I should say. Sorry.
Back in December, we sent out, it was a total of 6 property owners, because it is a condo association amongst the much larger parcel. We sent out 6 letters to the property owners, and I received 1 phone call. And that property owner did not have any issues with it, and I have not heard from them since. We came about this amendment because of the privately initiated one, and we felt as though as staff that it would be better suited to pull in this parcel with the residential 10 and have the entire block be community mixed use 35. It would be a more cohesive transition right there, especially with the privately initiated one that was submitted.
Do we have any, so maybe a question for Melissa, do we have any other experiences of doing this where we're?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. So, yes, from time to time, we will proactively look at doing land use amendments to either holistically or piecemeal update the future land use map. But there are, I can think of a number of other instances where we have looked at kind of a companion with privately initiated amendments to try to clean up things that the privately initiated amendment will leave behind, a remnant parcel, that sort of thing, like this does.
Okay, last question, I think. If this were a privately initiated application, would that application have been required to do a community meeting? And did we do one as staff? If the answer to that first question is yes.
That's not a requirement in the City of Tampa's procedures manual.
Okay, and there have been other instances where we've effectively changed the underlying designation of a parcel without the landlord's full consent. It sounds like we noticed, but we didn't really engage. We got 1 letter back.
We absolutely, we do not require, we have done, they're not required to sign off on it.
So if we were going to go through a circumstance where we were to downzone a parcel.
That would be different.
Okay. So since we're upzoning, we don't feel compelled to have the dialogue with the underlying landlord.
We try to have the dialogue. They were sent, I believe it was a certified letter, so.
Yes, they were sent a certified letter with a return receipt, and we sent that shortly after the cycle began. We sent the letters out, I believe it was December 6th or December 8th. And the phone call that I received was about December 12th, and I've not heard from any of the other property owners since then, and including that property owner as well. They only called me 1 time.
I agree CMU 35 is the right designation for this particular parcel. I'm just not sure how we elected to get here.
I will say of my own accord, I'm one who stays on staff to make sure that things like this get done. I think it's a good idea to make things clean and holistic, right? Sometimes the private sector leads the public. So, but as you were answered, they've gone through their due diligence. Property owner isn't required to speak. Some of us just like to stay in our properties and not be bothered. So, you know, we do what we can, but then we make our moves, so. All right, are there any other, yes, Commissioner Roy?
I was just wondering why the other properties to the south are not included.
Do you need a map for reference? Okay. We didn't feel as though bringing in those 2 additional parcels was an appropriate use of CMU 35, especially the parcel, hang on. Let me just go ahead and put the aerial up. So Commissioner Horton is referring to this parcel and this parcel as well. These 2 parcels here. So they also have the residential 10 and the CMU 35 along Howard. But given that these are single-family detached residences here, we did not feel as though that it was appropriate to continue the CMU 35 into these 2 parcels, intruding further into this and intensifying that, given that, as you all are aware, in other areas of the city, we have advocated that that not happen with CMU 35 adjacent to the residential 10, so that is why we did not bring in those other 2 parcels as well.
All right. Are there any other questions, Commissioner Sieben?
And so, just expanding on that, because now it seems like we're down a rabbit hole a little bit. So the publicly initiated change looks like it's encompassing 2 parking lots, and then the ones that you guys elected not to change are 2 additional parking lots. So I guess why these but not those?
Well, I think we focused on the parcel that is wrapping around the privately initiated amendment and focuses at the corner of Howard and Swan. We decided not to extend it further south along Howard because that starts to bring it closer to those existing single-family homes, as Emily indicated. And additionally, quite honestly, it also factors into the staff resources. I mean, the more property owners who we're having to contact and organize with as part of the amendment process, that's more time and staff effort. And so this was what we we bit off what we thought we could chew.
Understood. Thank you.
Are there any other comments or questions, thoughts from the commissioners? All good discussion, all good questions. Guys are putting them through their paces. Commissioner Soria.
Just one question, clarification. So the privately initiated amendment resulted in this one being publicly initiated automatically. Is that correct?
Not quite automatically. We discussed it as staff, and we, after looking at it, we determined that it would be a good use of CMU 35 there as well. So we determined that we did have the staff time and the capacity to do it, and so we chose to do this amendment and run it concurrently with the other amendment as well.
Okay. Thank you for the clarification.
All right. Any other questions or comments from the commissioners? Discussions? Going once, going twice. Public comments closed. All right. So I'll open it up to motions from the commissioners on this one. Commissioner Kona.
Yeah, motion to find TA CPA 2420 consistent with the City of Tampa Comprehensive Plan.
Commissioner Lauk.
Second.
All right. A motion of consistency finding by Commissioner Kona. A second to that motion by Commissioner Lauk. Any questions, comments, discussions from the commissioners before we take our vote on this one? Not seeing any, then, oh, did you have a?
I just want to commend the staff because I think a couple months ago there was a similar situation and that really wasn't taken into account. So I appreciate you taking the time to do that.
Good comments, Commissioner Bowden. All right. Anything else before we take our vote? All right. Then we'll all signify their agreement with the consistency finding by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed? Motion carries unanimously. All right. I think that was our last item for the City of Tampa public hearing. So I will adjourn the City of Tampa public hearing at 6:04 p.m. And then if you will all bear with me for a second, I will read us into our next public hearing for Hillsborough County. Welcome to the February 10th, 2025 public hearing of the Planning Commission on Hillsborough County Comprehensive Plan Amendments. We thank you for attending this meeting. Your comments and participation are encouraged. For those attending in person and wishing to speak on any agenda item, please sign the register at the rear of the room and turn off any devices that may be a distraction. To minimize feedback in the audio, all online participants in the meeting will be muted until it is their opportunity to speak. Planning commissioners should unmute themselves to indicate that they would like to speak. Please be sure to state your name at the beginning of your remarks for the benefit of the clerk. There will be an opportunity for members of the public to provide comments. When your name is called, you will be unmuted when it is your turn to speak. Please wait until the chair calls on you to begin speaking. State your name at the beginning of your comments and adhere to the time limits. If anyone has difficulties or is watching via HTV and would like to provide comments to be included in the record for the local government hearing, please email them to planner@plancom.org. For those of you who are not familiar with our process, the meeting will be conducted as follows. The agenda item will be introduced. Staff will give their presentation with a 15-minute time limit. The applicant will be given the opportunity to make a presentation with a 15-minute time limit. Following presentations, members of the public may address the Planning Commission when recognized by the chairman. Public comment will be heard for 3 minutes per person. The applicant will then be afforded a 3-minute period for rebuttal response. Planning commissioners will then ask questions. Public comment will be closed. Then upon a motion, a second, and discussion, a vote will be taken. To all participants, please note that tonight's hearings concerns proposed changes to the comprehensive plan. Presentation should not include matters related to zoning applications and site plans that are not before the commission. Zoning conditions are not relevant to plan amendments and may not be considered by the Planning Commission. The Planning Commission's purview in making a recommendation is limited to a consistency or inconsistency with the comprehensive plan. And with that, I'd like to ask the clerk to please call roll.
Good evening. Bowden?
Here.
Buzza? Cardenas?
Here.
Kona?
Here.
Kress? Lauk?
Here.
Saria?
Here.
Sieben? Orton?
Here.
Rodriguez?
Here.
Chair Joseph?
Here.
You have a quorum, sir.
Thank you. All right, our first and only agenda item is 2A, HCCPA 24-06, Comprehensive Plan Text Amendment, Energy Industrial Park for Residential, and the presenter is Melissa Leinhard.
Good evening, everyone. Melissa Leinhard with your Planning Commission staff. I'm here tonight to present to you HCCPA 24-06, which is the Energy Industrial Park Plan Amendment for residential uses. This item was briefed back in December. This is a privately initiated text amendment. This applies to one geographical area of unincorporated Hillsborough County. That would affect text under objectives 58 and 59 of the future land use element. That's the section that covers the energy industrial park future land use category. The same portion of the newly adopted and effective future land use section covering the energy industrial park area is under objective 4.16. That's important with the red line that you received at your desk. We were kind of straddling the old future land use element and the new future land use section. So that's the objective that corresponds to that language today. Specifically, this is a 3,000 acre piece of land to the south of State Road 60. One of the proposed changes affects a 476 acre area to the south of the railroad tracks, but the other proposed changes would affect the entire energy industrial park area. So here we are. This request was originally part of the January 2024 cycle of plan amendments. The applicant did ask to continue the item to the October cycle, which is why we're here tonight. This site is located in the urban service area, which is delineated by that blue line that you see on the map. It is not located within the limits of a community plan. Again, the site is generally bordered by State Road 60 to the north, Dover Road to the west, Turkey Creek Road to the east, and Durant Road to the south. There's also a TICO easement that runs here. You can see with my mouse, I'm pointing out here through the site. That's why there's a cutout there. And then this is the railroad track, so that's why there's a cutout there on the map. The Energy Industrial Park Future Land Use category, along with the text that supports the requirements and the vision, that was created through a privately initiated text amendment back in 2010. The policies at that time were based on the topography of the site as well as the available energy producing technology that was available at the time. When that category was created, there was also a large public outreach effort. As I mentioned last month in my presentation to you all, this is one of 2 Energy Industrial Park privately initiated amendments in the October cycle. HCCPA 23-15 is a separate amendment. We are not hearing that item tonight at all. You had a public hearing last month on that item. This is 2406, so a completely separate amendment. Both 2315 and 2406 affect the same site, but each request has different applicants and property owners. Both amendments affect the entire property, as I mentioned, and that's due to the text that's being affected under the Energy Industrial Park Future Land Use category. The same Planning Commission planner, me, is reviewing both items. We've been working in close collaboration with the reviewing agencies as well during these amendments. Oh, and then I also wanted to mention both of the amendments are scheduled for the Board of County Commissioner public hearing, which is a transmittal hearing, this Thursday evening, February 13th, 6 p.m., second floor, County Center. Regarding the impacts, the currently adopted language does not allow for the consideration of residential uses beyond the security and lodging housing that's mentioned in the text today. There's also language that requires that renewable energy be constructed first, and there is no co-location language in the currently adopted plan. There is also a requirement that a minimum of 40% of the total land area of the Energy Industrial Park category must be utilized for energy producing uses. There's also no floor area ratio or FAR specified for the security and lodging housing. And also with the current language, other EIP parks may potentially be considered countywide. Lastly, open space requirements do not specify whether agricultural uses are permitted in those areas or not. So that brings us to the proposed language. The proposed language would change the name of the category from Energy Industrial Park to Energy Innovation Park. It would also remove the word ancillary as a descriptor under the commercial and office use language. It would allow for the consideration of residential at up to 3 dwelling units per gross acre in the 475 acre area to the south of the railroad tracks that I pointed out, with 1,200 units being specified as the maximum number of units that would be allowed. The proposed text would add language that would allow renewable energy construction at the same time as the other uses, and it would specifically allow rooftop solar or other forms of co-located energy production, for instance, solar panels on top of a building. The proposed changes would also modify the required percentage of renewable energy. Today it's written as 40% of the site's gross acreage to 20%. It would also add a 0.5 floor area ratio or FAR limit to the security and lodging housing. As I mentioned, currently there's no limit specified. The proposed language would also delete the language allowing for the consideration of other energy industrial parks in other areas of the county. And then it would add language that would allow agricultural uses in the required open space areas. So this slide shows a more detailed view of the entire EIP site. That cross-hatched area on the south side, as I pointed out before, south of the railroad tracks, that's approximately 475 acres in size. That's where the applicant is seeking specifically to place the residential development that's being proposed. And the other changes I mentioned would affect the entire site. So this amendment was transmitted out for agency review, and while there were no objections, there were some comments of note. The Environmental Protection Commission with Hillsborough County noted that the Sydney Mine Sludge Pond Superfund site is on the northern portion of the Energy Industrial Park site, and that any proposed use or alterations within and perhaps adjacent to the ponds must be approved through the Florida Department of Environmental Protection. And they also made a comment that wetlands and other surface waters have yet to be delineated on the property. The Office of Emergency Management mentioned that the amendment aligns well with the current goal of the local mitigation strategy. And Development Services noted that the zoning would need to be amended to accommodate the proposed changes if it is approved. The Hillsborough County Environmental Services Division mentioned that there's a declaration of restrictive covenant for the Sydney Mine Superfund site to restrict certain uses on the property. Those conditions reduce or eliminate the risk of exposure of groundwater contaminants to the users of the property, and that the applicant must submit a floodplain map that is consistent with FEMA's 100-year floodplain map and surface water resource protection map. Lastly, they mentioned that a groundwater assessment process for additional parameters that are discussed, that have been discussed with the Florida Department of Environmental Protection and the U.S. Environmental Protection Agency in July of 2024. And they also mentioned in their comments that field work is starting in early 2025, and that will inform if revisions to the restrictive covenant are necessary. And then the last comment of note is from the Hillsborough County Community and Infrastructure Planning Department. They mentioned that Dover Road is a 2-lane undivided roadway with a daily maximum service volume, or MSV, of 16,815 trips. Based on the 2020 Hillsborough County Level of Service Report, currently there are 7,400 existing trips that utilize Dover Road daily. And the maximum potential residential development of the property, the project, the 476 acres, is estimated to generate approximately 9,926 daily trips. So the potential trip generation plus the existing traffic would force Dover Road over its level of service standard of D by 511 trips per day. So this, it's important to note, I wanted to point out with this slide that a number of concerns have been raised about the environmental impacts to introducing residential development in the Energy Industrial Park site, given the presence of the Superfund site that I mentioned. This slide shows the proposed residential in relation to the Superfund area. So you can see here, this is orange on my screen, it looks a little darker on here. This is the Superfund area, and then this dotted line shows the distance between the proposed residential, which is across the railroad tracks, and the distance is approximately 4,000 feet. So I just wanted to give everyone an indication of where the residential is proposed, and it is not on the Superfund site, and it is 4,000 feet away from there. So per the report provided by the Florida Department of Environmental Protection in 2011, as I mentioned, the restrictive covenant was filed with Hillsborough County, and that covenant applies to 4 designated areas that cover 3 parcels. So the area of institutional control is 325.8 acres in total. The delineation area is 246.5 acres within the area of institutional control, and the Superfund area is a 56 acre area that includes the Superfund site itself. So what I'm showing you here in this kind of dark orange color is 56.4 acres. Within the Superfund area is the actual Superfund site, which is approximately right about here, and it's 9.5 acres. So there's kind of a tiered system of what we're looking at here. And I also wanted to let everyone know, according to the EPA, the federal agency, institutional controls are non-engineered instruments such as administrative and legal controls that help minimize the potential for human exposure to contamination and or protect the integrity of the remedy. The delineation area is a Florida groundwater delineation area that restricts well installations. Sorry. Got a lot more to cover. The proposed text amendment would only allow residential development, as I mentioned, in this southwest area that's across from the railroad tracks. In addition, the proposed residential area to the southwest of the railroad tracks will be required to connect to public water and sewer, as the entirety of the Energy Industrial Park site is located within the urban service area. So that connection is required. It also should be noted that there's nothing about the proposed text amendment that would remove or alter the Superfund site or the regulatory process for the site. So based upon the submitted language proposed by the applicant, Planning Commission staff did ask that the applicant make 3 changes to the proposed language to better align with the currently adopted language as well as the surrounding development pattern. Here are the 3 changes that we asked for. In the new future land use section, Policy 4.16.5, number 11, the floor area ratio for the security and lodging housing, we suggested it be limited to a 0.25 rather than the 0.5 that was originally proposed by the applicant. They were amenable to this change. That 0.25 is reflective of the surrounding future land use categories in the urban service area to the west. Those are residential 4, and they have a 0.25 FAR, so we thought that was more appropriate. And fit in better with the development pattern. The second change in future land use section policy 4.16.5, number 4, we asked the applicant to add a sentence that said that those agricultural uses are not allowed in the buffer areas. And the reason we did that was to address the potential intensity of some agricultural uses. The third change we asked for was in future land use future land use section, policy 4.16.4. Under the first bullet, adding the language that no new supply wells or septic systems shall be allowed, and that was to address the Environmental Services Division comments. As I mentioned, the applicant did agree to all 3 of those changes, and a revised red line was emailed to you last week, and it was placed on your chair this afternoon. Okay. I'm going to get into the consistency review now. The proposed revisions were found consistent with the following objectives and policies of the comprehensive plan. First, we have objective 1, which calls for directing growth into the urban service area. As noted in my report, the unincorporated Hillsborough County jurisdiction is expected to add approximately 480 to 457 people between 2020 and 2025. And modifying the existing language of the energy industrial park to include potential new housing units in the urban service area adjacent to existing residential was found consistent with that objective. Allowing more traditional residential development in the energy industrial park would also be consistent with future land use element policy 1.4, which notes that compatibility is defined as the characteristics of different uses or activities which allow them to be located nearer or adjacent to each other and operate in harmony. The areas directly to the south of the area of the industrial park contain agricultural and residential uses, and the development pattern on the west side of Dover Road is residential with the future land use designation of residential 4, as I mentioned. Allowing residential uses in this area that is south of the railroad tracks would allow for a use that is complementary to those existing uses. The modification to include residential uses in this area is also consistent with future land use element policy 16.3, which calls for development to be integrated with adjacent land uses with the creation of like or complementary uses. Single-family residential or townhomes, which are the housing types that have been requested, are similar to the residential uses that are nearby and would be consistent with that policy direction. The request is also consistent with future land use element objective 16 and policy 16.2, as the proposed floor area ratio of now the 0.25, since it's been revised, would ensure that any proposed security or lodging housing would be ancillary to the research, energy, and educational functions of the EIP and would also be more complementary to the surrounding land uses. Given the applicant's indication in their narrative that they're committed to maintaining the alternative energy output and will not be reducing its energy commitment, the proposed changes are also consistent with the goal of the energy industrial park itself, as well as future land use element policy 59.1, number 1, which is under that section. And that includes that renewable energy production requirements and also language about the ever-changing nature of the renewable energy field. While the gross acreage requirement would be modified with this proposed change, the energy output would not be affected, which would not compromise the goal that I mentioned. Lastly, the request would be consistent with future land use element objective 29, which recognizes the importance of agricultural uses as an industry and a valuable economic resource. One of the proposed changes is supportive of creating and retaining agricultural uses. The request is also consistent with policy 29.1 of the future land use element, which promotes the development and maintenance of agricultural market centers to strengthen the agricultural economy, encouraging agricultural uses within and around such centers. So all this policy direction emphasizes the importance of agricultural uses in unincorporated Hillsborough County, and the proposed change is consistent with that policy direction. That brings us to the recommendation, which is that Planning Commission staff is recommending that the proposed text amendment HCCPA 24-06 be found consistent with the goals, objectives, and policies of the unincorporated Hillsborough County Comprehensive Plan.
Thank you. Does the applicant have a presentation?
Use the Elmo tonight. Hey, good evening. Jake Kramer with Stearns Weaver Miller, 401 East Jackson Street, number 2100. Commissioners, I know you've heard a lot about the energy park over the last 6 months or so. You've had briefings. There's 2 applications. The way I would frame it is the application you heard last month was sort of a Band-Aid. It's a land use category that's not working. This is the attempt at an overall overarching fix to a land use category that's not working. The big picture, how we got here in 2010, was this land use category was designed for one user. The plan was that user was going to take waste from Hillsborough County dumps, burn it, create energy, and then build a campus, an industrial and manufacturing and educational campus around that. That user went bankrupt. Now we have 2 landowners who have been trying since 2010 to figure out how can we make something work on the largest undeveloped property within the urban service area. This graphic gives you an idea of where we are in the overall context. As you all know, the Board of County Commissioners has directed the Planning Commission to move forward with applications for RP2 and WVR2 to expand the urban service area because we don't have enough land currently. We're adjacent to an area to the north that the board has directed study of whether to bring those areas into the urban service area. And we're really within a planned growth corridor. Keep in mind, we're within the urban service area, unusually. It's very unusual. I've never worked on a property this large in the urban service area. And so you can see we're nestled between Valrico and to the northeast. That's actually the future limits of Plant City, if you will. That's their vision corridor. That's what the city of Plant City is planning for future expansion, is really on our doorstep. And so what we're trying to do is two questions tonight. Does it make sense to modernize a land use category that's not working? And number 2, does residential make sense here, south of the railroad tracks? Big picture. Again, a commenter earlier mentioned changing colors on a map. Sometimes that's what we do as planners. The question is, does residential make sense here when you have R1 to the south, but you're also adjacent to R6? So to give you an idea, we're asking for roughly less than 3 units per acre in that area. If you look at the red line, your eyes probably went crossed. Commissioner Joseph, we took your suggestion to heart. Your staff had the same direction as well. They said, help us make this understandable to the average person, right? We have 18 policies. We condensed those into 5. We reduced the word count by about 25%. And we organize those categories like you all just did to the future land use section to try to make it all hang together and make a little bit more sense. But what we did not do was change the fundamental promises, if you will, or commitments that are inherent in this land use category today. So we're still focused on jobs generation. We're not taking away from that. We're trying to make this a modern mixed use district. The energy commitment, we're maintaining that, as staff mentioned. The timing of energy first, we're not changing that. We're modifying it so that energy can be built at the same time as, for example, the industrial building where the solar panels may go. So we're linking those together based on modern technology. We've still got a PD zoning approval, and we've still got to have screening, buffering, and berms. The berms were really important in our community meetings. So staff went through a lot of these, so I'll just highlight a few important concepts. One is that EIP can't be anywhere else in the county, right? So we're sort of sunsetting this category because we've learned it doesn't work, but these landowners have rights, and so we're trying to make it work for this landowner, realizing that other landowners, this is the only one right now. So other landowners would need to come before you all and ask for that. So we're asking for additional residential, which is important because we're not introducing residential to this category. Now, it is vacant, but we're not introducing residential. Lodging is allowed today, but it was supposed to, the idea was it was going to be part of that overall campus. Well, we're integrating the land uses. The only thing we're asking is allow us to have a modern planned community for that residential. Again, the timings and thresholds we're tweaking because we have two landowners now. They have to cooperate to do that. We also have modern technology, right, where solar takes much, much less land than it did to produce the same amount of energy. So what we've done is we've said, okay, we don't need as much land for solar, but let's maintain that as open space. But what we need to do is then allow that open space to be used for agriculture, because now it's not. It's very silly to me, having grown up on a farm, to think about agriculture not being allowed to be used as or counted as open space, but that's just the way the category works today. And then this is from your staff report, just showing this is the housing demand we have to meet in unincorporated Hillsborough County. Over 350,000 people are going to be coming to our county. And again, this is the largest site, undeveloped site within the urban service area. So with that, I'm going to bring up Bruce Kaschik, our land use planner. He's going to walk you through some of the uses and why we feel the residential is a better choice for the neighborhood than what's approved today.
Yep. Yep. Thank you. Bruce Kaschik, Florida Design Consultants, Certified Planner, 17907 April Drive. I've been having the opportunity to actually be part of the original creation of EIP. And so if you have any questions about the history, I can hopefully provide some clarity. And that's part of what I'm going to try to do, is further provide some clarification and eliminate any confusions or misconceptions of how we got here. Back, as Jake was just saying, back in 2010, actually started in 2009, the Board of County, the Planning Commission Board, as well as the Board of County Commissioners, approved this project unanimously. This also, at the time, we had to go to the Department of Community Affairs. And back when the Department of Community Affairs existed and was held to deal with the the Development of Regional Impact requirements. And so the project was designed to be less than what triggered the DRI. And so it went through many people, went through many hands, and as we often refer to, was kind of like created an elephant in how we got to this land use category. And to that end, what you're looking at is this is actually the approved PD plan, which again was unanimously approved, and the area in yellow is the residential area component south of the railroad tracks. And what I'm going to try to describe is that, as mentioned, this area is about 2.6 units per acre is what we are looking at. We're looking at it as really kind of providing that transition from the immediately rural to the south, but yes, also the higher land use categories that are to the east, as well as to the higher categories that are south of that area that's to the south of the rural. The 7.35 million square feet of approved entitlements is located basically in pockets A, B, and C. And it was, and again, at the time, the envision was to create an employment center that was complementing the renewable energy. The renewable energy at the time, the technology and what the concept was to utilize a biomass system. And that biomass system, as mentioned, was going to be utilizing, hopefully, wastewater, the waste solid stream from Hillsborough County, let me see if I hear, yep, and it was to be, again, basically was going to be that, as well as creation of hundreds, if not thousands, of greenhouses and aquacultural and algae growing facilities that would be used to help supplement the demand, because it was envisioned it was going to be pretty high demand on an ongoing basis, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. It was never to be stopped. And the intention was to sell the power not only to be utilized within the grid, within the development, but also to be sold to the grid, as it were. Just to kind of just as used as a reference purposes, 2970 acres, and just these are just kind of some examples of what that all equated to. There was also approval of 300 feet of height to provide for wind turbines as well as wireless communications. And as time has gone by, the wind concept has proven not to be as viable as we had originally had hoped. The project is approved to have a helipad as well, again, wireless communications, wind. Oh, I'm sorry. And again, it was going to be just kind of a mixed use, a mix of different things to help support the renewable energy concept. So what is a biomass? This is just some examples of some recently constructed biomass systems and what they look like and what they kind of are. The first one is in Denmark. The second is in Virginia. And the third is recently opened in United Kingdom. That's kind of what they look like. And then in supporting of that would have been, of course, the storage of waste debris, as well as all of the agricultural and other complexes necessary to help support that. And speaking of what that looks like, this is just a couple of examples of what an aquacultural, fishy farms look like. The concept was that the fish would have been sold to various restaurants. The waste from the fish was going to be utilized to help fertilize the greenhouses, which then all went back into the biomass. Oops, I'm sorry. Again, just showing what the rail and storage tanks that are approved in the project are. Let's see, let me jump ahead here because I know. As I mentioned, it had the ability to have, we were going to have a waste management area, also because the site is approved to have hurricane debris stored as part of, eventually to be part of helping to power the biomass. Wind turbines proven not to be viable, even at 300 feet, it's not sustainable enough winds, and the cost-benefit ratio has not worked. With that, I'd like to see, I'm going to turn it back to Jake. Okay, out of your way.
Thanks, Bruce. Jake Kramer again. So I won't repeat the policies that staff walked through in their analysis. I know there's a lot of members of the public here. We've met with a lot of them, and I think what you should listen for is what are in your policies. You're going to hear a lot of environmental concerns. I don't think those are unreasonable concerns. What I do think is you have to get into at the appropriate time. That's when you look at engineering concerns. That's when you look at things like the Superfund site. The comprehensive plan is focused on land use. Again, we're thinking big picture, right? Your comprehensive plan doesn't really focus on how and when do you remediate a piece of property, right? So we have to focus on what are the goals, objectives, and policies in your current plan. And we did do two community meetings for this project that was directed by the board, and we've been working to incorporate those concepts into our language. Unlike a normal, a future land use map amendment, keep in mind this is a text amendment. So we actually were able to incorporate into the text of this proposal some of the things that we heard from the community, which is a little bit unusual for the types of applications that you all oftentimes hear. So, for example, we heard a lot about agriculture, right? And so that was where we came up with our concept about using open space or using agriculture as open space in this project. And the other thing we heard really resoundingly from the community, because at first we had proposed some different ideas for the energy production, and we heard resoundingly from the community that was a commitment from the developer on day one. We want to keep that, and so we found a way to make that happen. So we can get into some of these misconceptions in the question and answer period, but just because this has been evolving over really over about a year and a half, I wanted to address a couple of the misconceptions up front. And I think staff did a good job of explaining what is a Superfund site, right? That's 9 acres. And then from there, the protections grow from there. Ultimately, you get to our residential site, which is about a mile away, which is further away than some other residences that the county has approved more recently. The soil impacts, to the extent there are environmental issues, right? First you have to decide does residential make sense here? That's what's so important, because then you go to the environmental agencies and they work with you to come up with the testing plan, because you have to figure out fundamentally, does it even make sense? And that's the step we're at. We're really stepping backwards to the very first step of the entire process at this point. And then again, one of the misconceptions is that we're introducing a new use, but we're not. Lodging is approved on the property today. People, if this original proposal would have moved forward, people could have lived there, but we're looking at a more modern concept. And again, people have talked about 1,900, 2,000 homes. That was our original proposal, and again, based on community feedback, we've reduced that. So I'll leave my last 30 seconds for rebuttal, and if you have any questions, I'm happy to answer them. Our entire team is here as well. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. We had quite a few people sign up in the public comment for this one. We'll start with those online, and I want to remind everybody that it's 3 minutes per person. Please be respectful of one another, and remember to direct your comments towards the board. If you have questions, go ahead and speak them. Don't wait for responses, because this isn't question and answer hour. You can say what your question is and keep on moving, and there'll be a period for the applicant to respond to those sorts of things. So use your 3 minutes wisely and keep them moving. And we will start online with Melissa G. Did Melissa G want to speak on this item? Is she on the line?
Yes, I'm here.
Please go ahead.
Hi, I am actually part of Dover Ridge community, which this plan backs up right to. So I obviously do have some environmental concerns. We had a lot of flooding too, and I was concerned if there is biomass to energy, if there is something that's going to, flood into our community, is that going to be dangerous for us? I have no problem with more people and more housing down the road, but my biggest concern is this going to have an environmental impact on the community that's already here in the surrounding area? And that's pretty much it.
All right, thank you. Next
Could you
up,
just state your name for the record?
Melissa Janez.
Thank you.
all right. Next up, we have Penny Martin. Yeah, and a reminder to state your name for the record before your comments. Is Penny Martin on the line?
Hi, yes. This
Please.
is Penny Martin. This site is located behind my home. I have been before this board for every meeting, and I've shared a lot of details regarding the toxic site and the COCs. All of the board claims we are not certified experts. I want to completely disagree. I work with geologists, FDEP, chemical engineers, medical and radiation experts for decades now. I know what went on over the years out back. Do you guys really know what happened? The soil, dirt, and air testing needs to be done on the entire 3,000 acres. The 472 acres of land is located on 3 former phosphate dumping unlined ponds, and all this land is wetland per the county officials. My back property is wet and soggy right now. We have 46,000 acres available in our county to develop on. Why do we want to put people on the land without proper testing first? On September 24, the board and staff identified 9 major inconsistencies. Now today, all of a sudden, it's all consistent. The changes to the wording before us today do not make it consistent. Our community is at risk. It has never been okay to build homes on a former phosphate mine that has never been tested. Furthermore, the renewable energy we wanted and need is not even a requirement now. That is completely changed. Our comp plan's #1 goal is to protect the community. It does not appear that that is happening. Several agencies have major concerns. Melissa spoke to most of them. One of them that I'll mention is the CLM in the housing development has identified that if this plan is approved, it would route up to 10,000 cars down my single lane country road right out my front window. Currently, there are 4 cars that pass down to my dead end road. The roads are already gridlocked here. You may not know, but in 2024, FEMA denied the 100-year flood map that was submitted by the owner. This directly impacts the developmental plans, but yet staff deems it consistent still. The COCs that are out there are dispersing into our aquifer here, and this is the most important concern, as it impacts us and 5 other states. Our team has shared these concerns at every meeting we've conducted, yet at the end of many of the meetings, there's a 3-second pause and then you vote. There's not one question for us, not one concern about the lack of testing. No one raises a hand to say, wait, stop, What about the infrastructure? What about the health impacts? And in less than 30 seconds, the commissioners all vote anonymously to approve a request. We can't do that this time. We are here for a reason and we need your help. A few questions I have. Why are we not addressing the safety of the community first? How do we make a few changes to the wording and make it all consistent? Why are we not taking the agency's input into consideration? Can homes be built before an energy source? The site development engineer I met with the other day said he didn't even know. The plan is not clear and is not consistent. Are we the next Love Canal community? This must be paused or denied at this time as this toxic.
Thank you, ma'am. Your time is up.
Untested.
All right. Next up, we have Miss Debbie Hunt, or was that? Yeah, Debbie Hunt. Is she on the line?
Good evening. My name is, yes.
Please go ahead.
Can you hear me?
Yes, go ahead.
Thank you. My name is Debbie Hunt, longtime resident at Hillsborough County with over 35 years in the state Florida Department of Transportation as well as Hillsborough County government, and close to 40 years living here in an ever-changing plans county which changes with every developer's desire to maximize profits. As such, I clearly understand the planning process and am very disappointed that informed decisions made by citizens on where to buy a home or property are consistently thwarted. I am disheartened by the lack of backbone to stand up for planning decisions made about property uses because of poor funds management in this county. Officials at all levels make decisions based on potential new monies to the county coffers without respect to the lack of roads or other necessary infrastructure today that will not get addressed as a result of these new decisions, despite adding additional pressure to the existing maxed out systems. It is encouraging when county staff fight for what is right at the beginning. However, many ultimately back down due to pressure encouraging kicking the can down the road for others to approve. All are culpable at the end of the day. You ultimately are responsible for the decision you recommend or make today. Years were spent working on what type of development would be the most appropriate and least impactful to the environment within the property boundaries, as well as the surrounding properties. What was approved was 2 energy types and access only to State Road 60. There is a reason why the sitting VOCC in the past approved the agreement reached between the property owners and the residents for the energy industrial park as the best use for these contaminated lands. Those same citizens are still here today involved to protect the public. There is a reason many planning commissions and VOCCs since then did not make changes to what was approved, and not for a lack of trying by the developers. What has changed? You do not have all the information you need to make an informed decision tonight. Do you know what the levels of radon and radiation throughout the property? Do you have results of groundwater testing? What previously required mitigation has been completed and what is still pending? What happens to the Florida aquifer when you disturb these lands that are riddled with various contaminants? Was that shared? Were you able to read the entire 200+ page agenda item, and were you provided all the other documents associated with this property, including updated studies as recent as last year that recommended continued study, testing, and monitoring before moving forward with any development? At what point are you each going to make the decision these real-life threatening requested changes are not in the best interest of the citizens of Hillsborough County? Please deny this request. Thank you very much.
Thank you. All right. Last but not least, virtually, we have Brady Harris. If Brady's on.
Yes. My name is Brady Harris. And I would ask you to find 2406 inconsistent as previously, before these minor changes were submitted and somehow it became magically consistent. There's no way that we can handle 1,200 more homes, and homes wasn't even part of the EIP when we initiated it back in 2010. I would ask you to leave it energy first, and by putting solar panels on rooftops of houses or buildings, I don't think that's count as energy first. And if I heard Jake correctly, he didn't even say that that was they were definitely doing that. He said that was an option. So, I mean, in other words, I would have for that. And I've lived here. I lived at the end of the property that's in question. And when the owners bought this property, they should have known what they were buying, what it was designated at, and what they could do with the property. Now they're wanting to change the rules. The water from the property flows directly through my property into Turkey Creek, the small creek never meant for drainage, and that creek runs to the Alphi River, which opens up into the Gulf, or actually the Bay, I'm sorry. If I'm understanding correctly, USF is doing a study right now trying to find out how forever chemicals are getting into the Gulf and the Bay. Well, that's one source right there, because we did some testing in my property across my ditch that flows from that property, and there is high levels of radiation. My mother, when she passed away, she had cancer. Now, she lived on the property from 1967. I wasn't born until 69, and I've lived there my whole life. So, I mean, you know, in other words, we could have been poisoned from that property just living on this property. And I'm asking you to oppose it. And
all right, sir, that's your time. Thank you. All right. Can we hold the applause, please? We need to get through this meeting. This isn't the Grammys. It's a meeting, public hearing. So now we'll jump on over to the people who are in the room, and I'm going to call you in groups of 3 because we got quite a few people here, so to get you all queued up. So the first 3 will be, looks like Tori Wiley, Vivian Baca, and Josephine G. Amato. Are Tori Wiley, I think it's Tori Wiley, yeah, Vivian Baca, and Josephine G. Amato. Please, go ahead.
Good evening, I'm Tori Wiley, and you have heard everything that our red shirts have been talking about, and I stand behind all of them. I am here as a concerned citizen because of the toxins in the ground. So I basically just want to talk directly to each one of you. And you probably have parents and kids and grandkids and grandpuppies. If anyone was to move to this area that is part of your family, if they came to you and said, they've been wanting to buy a house in this area, and you all know what's going on there, all the toxins. And I was just wondering if you could think about what you would tell them if your parents or kids wanted to move into that area. It might not be built directly on the sludge pond, but it's very close. And we don't know what's going through the groundwater and everything. So that is just my question to you. What would you advise your family to do? Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Next up, Vivian Baca.
Good evening, Vivian Baca, 413 El Greco Drive in Brandon. I oppose this amendment. Staff makes no mention in their analysis of comp plan provisions related to environmental sustainability or the One Water portion of the plan. This property was a former phosphate mine and has a Superfund site. It is on karst geology, which does not necessarily perk straight down. It does not appear that they have done any kind of test to see that the water has not deviated onto the residential portion of the property because we all know karst flows in channels. Please note this map. That's the Swift mode map from the sinkholes opening up in the Dover Plant City area during the January 2010 freeze. And if you notice, the green line and the purple line eventually became the water use caution area. And if you see, the property is in there. No, as you can see, the site was within that area while the entire area, that caution area, was changed in 2021. It doesn't mean that another freeze event couldn't cause more sinkholes to open, possibly in the Superfund area. What happens to our drinking water if a sinkhole opens on this site and dumps hazardous waste into the Alafia watershed? Or what if it opens in the planned residential area? Will there be loss of life? It's happened before. Will the county be sued for approving these residential uses in an area known to be prone to sinkholes during a freeze event? To say that the 2010 freeze event was a one-off is unrealistic in view of climate change and the fact that Tallahassee had snow last month. Finally, I would like to say that back in 2010, I was here for the original EIP hearing, which I opposed. And I would like to point out that the reason this entire property is in the urban service area was because they wanted to use hotels and they wanted to flex. The entire property was not in the urban service area until that plan amendment. There was going to be lodging, not homes. Lodging for people visiting the research site. It was pushed through so that they could get their energy credits from the federal government that were expiring. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Next up, we have Josephine Giamato.
Hi, good evening. Can you hear me? My name is Josephine Amato. I actually participated in the land development plan, our future land use. So I am quite familiar with our comprehensive plan. Our current charter states for 381 times, the health, safety, and welfare of its citizens is its purpose. This includes the 99 times it is mentioned in our comprehensive plan. It also states to protect our long-term agricultural use of the land and our long-term protection of our water. Language is everything when it comes to the law. There's a difference between shall and may. Every request made by the petitioner changes the integrity of our entire comprehensive plan. This is the most egregious backdoor way of rewriting a significant portion of our comprehensive plan that would impact the entire county without community input. Ancillary means that the retail space is supposed to address what the land is supposed to be for. So the removal of that word means you can put any retail in there. Hey, put a Target where women and children are going to get clothing on top of next to a Superfund site. So speaking of the Superfund site, to begin just being far enough away from a Superfund site for non-radioactive land is 4 miles. That's 2,500 acres. The petitioner is requesting a change that will impact all of us, not just around that site, because they're changing the entire language of the comprehensive plan when it speaks to environmental land. Every single word without our input matters. The site has been active for radiation at the 3 last EPA testing. It's right part of the river that is right above our aquifer. The site itself, the entire property, is susceptible to sinkholes due to the radiation activity, but also because of where the dumping and the mining was. Okay, that increases the risk to radiation. In 2016, we already had a sinkhole that impacted our aquifer. So the health, safety, and welfare of our community is the primary purpose of anyone making decisions about a comprehensive plan and about our county. And when we make a decision about changing the language that basically says, go for it, do whatever you want, that's a blank check on this land, that is an issue. And that's the language speaking specifically to the comprehensive plan. It was made in a vacuum without community input. And it's not a small change. It is a huge change, multiple changes without community input. This goes beyond an amendment to one piece of property. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Next up, we have Angela. Let's hold it down. Angela Johnson, Renee Madison, and then George and Yvette Neiman.
Good evening. My name is Angela Johnson, and I'm a resident of the area. My property directly backs up to the proposed development site. I'm here today to express my concerns regarding the potential impact of this development, what it will have on my property, my surrounding community, and my neighborhood. First, I would like to highlight significant inconsistencies regarding the impact on traffic and the local school system. Traffic in this area has already reached critical levels. We can agree that the 2020 study is outdated. We all know how much traffic has increased in our community in the last 4 years. In addition, 2 years ago, it was reported that 72% of our local schools were already over capacity. Despite this, construction continues without addressing the growing strain on our education system. The Tampa Bay Times just recently reported that Hillsborough County schools have the lowest test scores in the state. Yet, we continue to push forward with development, all while depriving our children of the quality education they deserve. This pattern of prioritizing development over education is both concerning and it is inconsistent with the need of the community. Furthermore, when the property owners' representatives spoke at each of the town halls, they assured us that low-income housing would be included as part of this residential development as it is required for approval. If this is a case, then we must seriously question the wisdom of placing low-income housing on a former phosphate and disposal site. It is well documented that these types of sites carry environmental risk, and exploring the most underserved, exposing the most underserved and vulnerable populations to potential health hazards is both unethical and inconsistent with your duty to protect public health. The development as proposed is also not consistent with surrounding properties which are low-lying and rural. Over the course of the ongoing development in the area, the flooding of nearby properties, including mine, has increased significantly. The majority of the properties in question, this property is in a floodplain, which means the development will undoubtedly contribute to even more flooding in our area. This is not only inconsistent with the environmental realities of the area, but it is also deeply concerning for us residents who will be affected. In conclusion, I believe that this development proposal, as it stands, is fundamentally inconsistent with the needs and the well-being of the community. The strain on our traffic, schools, and the potential environmental hazards, I urge you to vote against it.
Thank you. All right, Renee Madison.
Renee Madison, CPA 2406. I really appreciate Mr. Kramer asking, does it make sense? Radiological contamination and radon are a high concern at the EIP and 3,000 acres known as the Sydney Mine Sludge Ponds. Strewn throughout this property are huge amounts of radioactive rock tailings that have been brought to the surface and stacked in strip mines. Let me point that out. As you see these strips right here, these rows, those aren't rows of trees. That is rows from the strip mine where the exposed radiological rocks are at the surface. Some of these are 75 feet high. In the 1989 endangerment assessment, the absolute need for comprehensive studies to be performed throughout the entire property to quantify and delineate the radiological contaminants as well as the risk to human health. What I have brought for you guys tonight, please pull out your small sheet that I put with my map for everybody. In this box, I have rocks that were gathered from the strip mine and the exposed radioactive rocks, which are made of uranium, thorium, thallium, radium, and radon. Will you all please look at the small code from the Radiological Nuclear Commission? Right now, we have a reading of 316 CPM. Please, at what level is that? It's considered high. The human risk for putting people in homes or warehousing on this property for 3.5 hours a day over the course of a year exceeds the FDEP's allowable limits. Please, this is not consistent because not one square inch has been delineated and tested for the extent of the radiological contaminants. In conclusion, I'm asking the Planning Committee to postpone making any decisions to move forward with CPA 2406 until comprehensive assessments have been concluded and the radiation risks to human health have been completed and quantified. Would you guys want your family members to live on land that hasn't been delineated?
That's it.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, next up we have George Neiman, and then we followed by Yvette Neiman, and Susie Watts after that.
Good evening, George Neiman. I am one of the people that helped found the Fix Hillsborough Neighborhood Coalition, and there's a bunch of us here tonight, great speakers. Stanley Harris, if you're listening, we have to find you a lawyer because your land has been contaminated by the EIP. Just some corrections. Jake had mentioned about the original plan. The original plan was not to do biomass. The original plan was to do the algae ponds and create biofuel, but it wasn't to burn garbage. That's, if you look at the original write-up on it. Also, the Superfund site that they like to mention is they're using it as a distraction. We all know about the Superfund site. That is not the issue. The issue for you folks right now is it consistent or is it not consistent? I disagree with Melissa Leinhardt, who put together her review. I'm just going to, if I can put this on the overhead. Could switch that, please. This is just, I'm going to show you a couple pages. We submitted to this board the previous time. No one ever commented, and I want to challenge the chairman. I like responses. When we say you haven't even read this or you had no comments on all the inconsistencies we found, over 30 of them, and the inconsistencies, this second review has gone even higher. And if you look at this particular one, 3.2.15, there's a whole bunch in all of the different elements, whether it be the sustainability and environmental or mobility. Mobility, you're supposed, the plan says we should be reducing auto traffic to reduce emissions. How in the heck does this reduce vehicles on the road? When there is no multimodal, you're supposed to be picking projects that enhance multimodal, and this doesn't do it. And on this one, You look at what it says. Provide the public with information regarding health hazards associated with reclaimed lands and radon gas emissions. Well, the owners of this property are avoiding it. You didn't hear anything in his presentation about radon and the emissions. They're avoiding it. Their expert that came to their town hall meeting said, why would we talk about radiation? You don't get that from
All right,
mining.
sir. That's it. Thank you.
Okay.
Ms. Neiman?
Good evening. Yvette Neiman here. I am opposed to your decision that CPA 2406 is consistent with the comprehensive plan. The proposed amendment undermines the principles and long-term goals outlined in the plan, which serves as the guiding framework for sustainable and responsible growth within our community. As you know, our coalition has reviewed the comprehensive plan and found over 30 inconsistencies. Due to time constraints, I'll focus on just one right now, mobility. Goal 1 reads, build and maintain a transportation system that supports the needs of all users with respect to ability, resources, identity, and mode preference. Objective 1.21 under policies reads, support projects and strategies that lead to lower vehicle emissions, improved air quality, lower rates of asthma and other chronic diseases, and limited resources. There's no way the current transportation system can support this proposed amendment. The crazy amount of vehicles that will be on the road would certainly increase emissions and discourage walking and bicycling because of the increase in the commercial traffic. In addition, there's no funding to widen the roads. How are all these vehicles supposed to travel on these existing country roads? Objective 5.3, new development shall mitigate its impact on the multimodal transportation network. Discourage sprawl under 5.3.6. Removing the plan's requirement would encourage sprawl. The area of proposed commercial industrial development is surrounded by agricultural and rural community with minimal infrastructure. The commercial industrial development that would occur would draw traffic volumes from the more urban sections to the rural sections surrounding the EIP. Keeping the energy first requirement will result in less intense impacts on the transportation network and ensure compliance with the goal of the plan. Due to the 3-minute allotment, I can't go to any of the other ones, but it would take hours to go through all the inconsistencies. I'd just like to ask those in opposition to this amendment to please stand up. You can see how the community is against this. And this is just a tiny little portion of those against it. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Neiman. All right, next up we have Susie Watts, and then Q. Joe Lang and Melanie Lang after her.
Thank you, Planning Commission, for welcoming my comments. My name is Susie Watts. I'm the president of Bloomingdale Neighborhood Association. I represent 23,000 of your neighbors. This has been discussed for over a year in our monthly meetings, and we oppose it. The text amendment is opposed due to the impact on infrastructure, health concerns, integrity, and fiscal responsibility. Specifically, Goal 7.2 objective, minimize adverse impacts to the residential and commercial neighborhoods and environmentally sensitive land. Our current roads, schools, sheriffs, and fire rescues are already strained. This is demonstrated by Hillsborough County has designated that Lithia Pinecrest and Bloomingdale Avenue are both failed roads due to capacity. We see this daily with school traffic and work traffic. Easy travel is only available between about 9 a.m. and 1 p.m. on weekdays. Sheriff's Office in our District 5 is understaffed, as it has been for several years. Response time for fire rescue exceeds the national standard of 5 minutes for 90% of dispatch priority calls at times. Response time equals living or dying. Regarding integrity, I know that's not one of the goals, but I think it should be. The current owners of the land bought the land in 2010 with full knowledge it was zoned for an alternative energy park. That is what they bought. Now they do not want to honor that agreement. They have the right then to sell their property if it doesn't meet their needs. Let's cast integrity aside. Let's just talk about dollar and cents. You just saw in the news that Tampa Electric is raising our bill by $20 a month for everybody. You know, that's a lot of people in Hillsborough County. The planned alternate energy park would at least be better because maybe we get more energy, an alternative source. It may harden our energy because it would be an alternative way. So if wind is out or this is out because of natural disasters, perhaps the algae will be producing. I don't know. So thank you for your attention, and we oppose it due to impacts on residential neighborhoods. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Next up, we have Joe Lang.
I'm Joe Lang. I live on the southwest border of the Dover Roads mine. Our concerns have not been addressed, and it's really because of the inconsistencies. I've lived in this county now 60 years. I've never seen flooding this bad in the eastern Hillsborough County area. Dover, Valrico, McIntosh Road flooded for 3 weeks. At the end of Milton was flooded prior to that. There are 10 homes on Copper Ridge that were built below South Dover Road that have dealt with flooding in their backyard for years. South Dover Road shoulders are always saturated because there is no water egress plan that's been coordinated as these different communities have been built. If you say yes, you are approving more flooding, acknowledging there is no updated flood maps on the property and the risk of 16 million gallons of toxic waste that could leach into our backyards. I do want to say on this property there is large muck pits and clay. I mean, I see the idea of building on these residential properties, but there hasn't been any testing out there, and it's crazy because we've got neighbors that are saying, just like someone today, that there is radon, other caustic natural chemicals. Secondly, South Dover Road's in rough condition. You all are wanting to put this traffic on the worst possible side of South Dover Road. There are no bike lanes, partial sidewalk, muck on the side of the roads. There's a portion of Dover that's on a 30-degree angle because the road is sinking. I wish I was making this stuff up, but it's sad. Copper Ridge, the road is crumbling dramatically on the edges. This is not just a little bit of something going on. There are multiple 1 and 2 inch deep horizontal cracks that are along the street, really all the way as you walk up to the railroad tracks. Your street counters are not factoring in the size and weight of the rock haulers and tree service trucks that pound this wet country road. The 2010 plan was only to use Highway 60 for the traffic to minimize the effect on Dover Road. That's what we want to see. And by the way, those numbers are way off. I think it was from 2020, the number of cars, 7,000? No way. That's way off. This remaining property we want to build on, let's remember, is a phosphate mine property. It's never been tested. There's things out there that you can't even walk through, let alone test it, and that's where we want to build properties. I'm concerned. If you vote yes, you're taking the ethical responsibility that you are 100% sure that we're not going to have any health issues for our families. I really worry about this because the way we're fast tracking, we're seeing the effect on our side of the county because we have horrible flood problems. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. All right, Melanie Lang next.
Hi, my name is Melanie Lang, and I've lived off Dover Road my entire life. Today you've heard the outrage from well-educated people speaking today about the many negative inconsistencies concerning this proposed project, such as the toxic sludge, the sinkholes, increased radiation levels, overpopulation, and immense flooding. Instead of diving deeper into those concerns, I'd like to educate you on the environmental impacts of funding and the creation of suburban developments. The environment that you want to destroy is not just a forest or a rundown woodland area, it's an ecosystem with toxic sludge, but still. Every ecosystem is crucial to our environment, big or small. When clearing the land for these housing units, you're throwing off the balance of the environment, forcing animals that have resided in this area for generations to relocate or most likely die. I'd love to know who will be taking the time to relocate all the baby deers that play in my backyard, or the cows, the bunnies, or the gopher tortoises, which are a protected species. They don't have the luxury of just packing up and leaving like we do. They'll be buried in construction or barely escape alive. And I do believe it's important to speak up and fight for the ones who aren't able to speak and fight for themselves. The construction and deforestation from this project alone will not only affect the deer, birds, foxes, but they'll also negatively contribute to the bigger picture, which is climate change. The Earth is not the same as it was years ago. My generation, along with all future generations, have to deal with the repercussions of other people's actions, which we have little to no control over. All we have is our voice. To you, this project might seem minuscule in the grand scheme of things, but I'm here to tell you that's completely false. Every little bit matters. Think of the big picture. The undertaking of this deforestation and construction will disrupt and harm our ecosystem in the long run. This is not something we're able to ignore with the current state of our climate. This project may be just numbers and words on a paper to you, but for me, this is my life. 5 years ago, we didn't have to have a radiation detector in my house at all times, and it's only going to get worse if this project gets approved. If my family doesn't get driven out of the neighborhood because of the radiation or flooding, then I would be raising my children in that home. The problem is I don't want to raise my future children in a highly toxic or highly radioactive environment, or constantly worry if the next storm will be the one to make my family homeless because of flooding. So be a part of the solution and not the problem, not just for me and my community, but for our children and our children's children. I'll leave you today hopefully understanding the gravity of the situation. I urge you to listen to the people that live here. Think about the power that you have on the planet that we live on, and have respect for the planet and the people that provide for you. Thank you.
Thank you. Well said. I'll allow applause for that one. All right. Rob Rosner will be our last one. Oh, okay. All right. Well, that's all we had signed up for the public comment, believe it or not. So I'll turn it back over to the applicant for a 3-minute period of rebuttal response to some of the points raised.
Yes, sir. Jake Kramer again. I'm going to have a couple of excerpts speak first.
Good evening. Michael Yates with Palm Traffic. We are going to go through a detailed traffic study when we get to zoning. We'll have to go through and evaluate the project accesses, the condition of Dover Road. We will also have to deal with substandard roads, so we'll need to work through multimodal configurations to accommodate both bicycle and pedestrians on Dover Road. So we will have all those obstacles and challenges to go through. We've already started discussions with the county engineer on what some of those improvements could look like. So those are what we will have to go through to address all those concerns that got raised regarding the traffic flow, and both accommodating bicycles and pedestrians. I'll turn it back over to Jake to finish up.
Just for the record, Bruce Kashek, Florida Design. Discussion about the flooding. Just want to clarify that the FEMA map that is being referenced to was actually from 2008, which actually is, the surveying was done in 2006, which was prior to any of the reclamation work that's been done. We've had a pre-app with SwiftMud to discuss what kind of modeling we're going to be doing to address those concerns. We've looked at the northern end as well. And again, just a reminder that as part of the original project, there was about a 270-acre wetland mitigation area that was created to assist with dealing with a lot of the wetland environmental issues that were created back then.
Thank you, Bruce. Jake Kramer, Stearns Weaver Miller again for the closing. So in my opening, I said there's really 2 questions to answer tonight. First question is, does it make sense to modernize a land use category that's been around since 2010 and no one has been able to make it work? That's the first question. I didn't hear any objections to that tonight. So the second question is, does it make sense to have residential? Your staff has said yes. Our professional land planners have said yes. So the question isn't, do we develop? The site is it's going to get developed at some point, right? The entitlements are there. It hasn't happened yet, but it will happen. Question is, can we go back to the Elmo, please? On the southern portion of the property, south of CSX, is it better for the residents who live in that area to have 300-foot tall wind turbines as a possibility, or a planned community? That's the question. We're drawing lines on a map. We're determining where is it possible, where does it make sense to put residential? Does it make sense to have intense, smelly fish farms right next to residences? I have no idea how this was approved in the beginning, but it's approved. That's the entitlement today. Does that make more sense than this? I don't think so. I think that answer is pretty easy for me. So again, our team is here if you have any questions. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Now to the commissioners for discussions, questions, comments, thoughts on this one. Anybody? Commissioner Orton.
It sounds like they haven't been approved by like the EPA or several of those things. They're waiting for these things to be approved. Shouldn't we wait until those things have been approved before we even hear this?
Can I comment on that?
Wait, hang on.
I was going to say, I'm happy to answer it. Is
Yeah,
that okay?
go ahead.
Okay, for the record, Melissa Leinhard, Planning Commission staff. The regulatory process, this is the first step in this process of approval. First, we start with changing the text, and then when the rezoning comes in, then we make a determination at a staff level. You all don't see rezonings, but we would look at it as a staff level to say, is this consistent with the comprehensive plan? We then make a recommendation to the zoning hearing master. Then there's a recommendation made from Development Services, the zoning hearing master, and Planning Commission staff to the Board of County Commissioners, who ultimately either approves or denies a rezoning. Each rezoning comes with conditions of approval. So all the details that are in the text that I know we tried to soften a little bit, those will all be enumerated in conditions of approval. And then when the project comes in for site development and or platting, then those things, those deliverables need to be, those boxes need to get checked. So, and then the regulatory process with the Florida DEP and the EPA, that will also be part of the rezoning, conditions of approval, and site development. Does that
So
help?
they could go through this and get approved, and then at the very end, they can't do anything because EPA or, say, nope, you're not any good. So they can, it just sounds backwards to me. It could be contaminated land and yet they get the approval. That's.
You may also want to hear from the applicant
Okay.
on that.
I just want to make a comment on, it's not as though nothing has been done with the EPA. The EPA has been involved in this site since 1980. So this site was actually created by Hillsborough County. This was a Hillsborough County dumping site. The county took ownership of that and has been working with the EPA since 1980. All of the cleanup work has actually been done as it relates to the Superfund. Now it's in what's called the monitoring phase, which is where they have monitoring wells and they're making sure that things are
Hang on, Mr. Kramer. Can we keep it down in the audience, please, and have respect for the people who are at the podium like we had respect for you when you were at the podium? Thank you. All right, please continue, Mr. Kramer.
Thank you. So I realize to your question, there is some chicken and egg element to this, but you have to start somewhere, and the remediation work, that's been going on since 1980. So, thank you.
All right. Did you have something to say, Ms. Ornita?
No, I just would also add that we have county staff from the County Environmental Services Department here who we asked to be here also because of all the environmental questions. So I don't know if, Mr. Moran, if you have anything you want to add on this question.
Good evening, Kevin Moran, Environmental Services for the record. So as Jake said, Hillsborough County has been working for many years on the Superfund site, not on the entire project, not on the entire 3,000 acres, but on the Superfund site. That site's been remediated. We are currently in what's called a record of decision, which requires us to monitor the site. We collect samples twice a year. We have found that the plume there is contamination on the site still. We have found that the plume is stable and non-migratory. Stable means that the concentrations of pollutants aren't changing, and non-migratory means it's in one location. And we have found that over many years of sampling. In 2021, we met with the EPA and we determined that there's another contaminant of concern that we need to delineate at the site. That's 1,4-dioxane. We started work on that in January, last month. We've started collecting groundwater samples. We'll be doing the same effort. That's delineating the plume, the extent, and the magnitude of the contamination. There's a potential that because of that work, the restricted covenants could be expanded. But as far as the Superfund site goes, that's a known boundary, and the county has determined that the institutional controls that are there make it safe for the residential proposal that's being made today.
Don't go too far away, Mr. Moran.
Nope.
Commissioner Lau, I'll come back to you. Hang on.
Why don't you come back to me because I have questions
Go ahead.
beyond.
Go ahead, Commissioner Horton.
Okay, my concern with the school district, whenever we have 500 units, a development, the developer is required to give us a site, a school site.
Mm-hmm.
Well, what we do first is we do a phase 1.
Right, yes.
To me, this sounds like you're talking a Superfund site of 9 acres that you've reviewed. What about the other areas? If we did a phase 1, this sounds like it would not pass. We would then do a phase 2. It sounds like it would not pass. We would then do a phase 3. We have gone to an orchard and have gone all the way to a phase 3 and they had to remove the contaminants in order for us to build the school site there. That took so much time just to clean a small 25-acre site because going through each of those phases. Can you tell me that when the time comes for us to request our school site from this area, that it's going to be clean enough for our school site?
No, I cannot.
Because you're only talking about the Superfund area, not all of the other area.
That's right.
Okay.
All right. Next, Commissioner Lau.
That was a great exchange. Question for staff, and we can start with environmental investigation / remediation, and point of clarification on all of these topics for the citizens that have come out tonight and perhaps some of us up here. But just for clarity's sake, traffic, stormwater, wildlife protection / remediation, environmental investigation, your phase 1, your phase 2, your phase 3s, et cetera, are typically addressed later in the development process and not here, and it's typically not part of our purview. So if I'm mistaken in that, I would like to know now. I have further questions around some of the land use provisions, but I would like that answered directly and clearly, especially since we have so many concerned citizens in the audience tonight.
You are correct.
Okay, thank you. While you have the podium, let's talk about environmental sustainability and some of the provisions within the land use code. I think some of the audience and the neighbors made some very good points tonight regarding some of the protection that's called out when we make land use decisions.
Mm-hmm.
Can you speak to those concerns as it relates to the purview of this board and how they were considered and how they were ultimately weighed?
Well, at this point, we would rely on our technical reviewers that are part of the agency review. When we send out, Mr. Moran is from the Hillsborough County Environmental Services Division, so we did transmit to them. We also transmitted to the Florida Department of Environmental Protection, DEP. So we would take into their comments into account when we're making our finding. At this point, the text that's being altered is nothing to do with the Superfund area. So from our purview, from what staff is looking at, it's what text is changing, and then is that text that's changing, how is that consistent with the adopted policy direction within the comprehensive plan? So there's nothing in the text that is proposed to be changed that has anything to do with the environmental features, with the Superfund area. None of that text is touched.
Perfect. So let's walk down two paths, two hypothetical paths, very real hypothetical paths. The first one is the Board of County Commissioners in this body finds this inconsistent. The designated land use stays the same, and it's developed under current entitlements. So what is what happens in the land development for the audience from that point forward when they go to get permits, when they go to build sites specific to environmental remediation / investigation, and what does that look like?
It would be the same as if it were changed.
So if
Those
approve-
regulatory processes are in place, whether we change the text today, or whether you recommend to change the text today, or the board approves it on Thursday or not.
Right.
There is a zoning in place, and there is a major modification. I know we're not considering that tonight, but just for information purposes, there is a modification to the existing plan development that is submitted currently, and it is a concurrent rezoning with the previous energy industrial park text amendment that you all voted on last month. That is Major Mod 24-0675, and that is supposed to go to the zoning hearing master in March, and that will line up with if the other energy industrial park plan amendment is transmitted on Thursday evening, that concurrent plan amendment, rezoning would line up then with the plan amendment at the adoption. Because these are text amendments, they go through 2 hearings with the Board of County Commissioners. Thursday, February 13th is the transmittal, and then it would come back for adoption if it is transmitted. If it is not transmitted, then it doesn't go anywhere.
So step 1, so possibility 1, it doesn't get transmitted. It's found inconsistent. Development can still happen. Environmental issues can still arise when the dirt is turned, but development will happen.
Yes.
Possibility number 2, we find consistency. The nature of that development changes, but the aforementioned traffic, stormwater, wildlife protection, remediation, environmental investigation, all of that stuff still happens down the road, phase 1, phase 2, phase 3.
Yes, this is essentially step 1 in order to facilitate steps 2, 3, 4, 5, all of those other steps.
Perfect. You made that crystal clear. Thank you. The last question I have, I think I heard, I think is an excellent point. So, but maybe you can prove it incorrect. How narrow is our rewriting? This is a text amendment for what looks to me like a giant piece of ground, contiguous piece of ground, but we're impacting the entire. The text amendment impacts the entire code, right?
The entire site.
Yeah. Sorry, it's been a long day. But no. But does it impact just the site? So is it a narrow changing of the?
No, it affects the entire category. So the whole 3,000 acres is affected by the text within the future land use
And
section.
then how many existing land uses do we have similar to this one that would be impacted? So it's not impacting everything, it's just this specific land
0
use.
other, because there's just the one.
Okay, that's perfect, good job.
And now with this change, the applicant is proposing to strike any ambiguous language where you could interpret that this could go in another place. They've introduced language that explicitly says no more energy industrial parks, energy innovation park, however you want to say it.
Just this specific land use
Just this
category.
3,000 acres, yes, sir.
Perfect, thank you.
All right. Are there any other questions? I had a quick question, Mr. Moran, probably. I was kind of in support of staff at the start of this, but my mind is starting to change a little here. I have an apprehension that's brought about, a slight one, it's not major, by the RC. The speak of expansion of the RCs, right? We know that there's newer technologies that are going to happen when we do this review compared to what was done when we did the one in 2017 that set those boundaries and stuff like that. Because I actually have read the documents for the people who are in the room. I'm a nerd like that, and I've read through all of them, so I know the history of the site. When we do this new study that they're speaking of kicking off here in 2025 to look at the areas around it, again, we probably think we're going to find some level of expansion. I don't know what level of expansion that's going to be, but it gives me pause because if it is a large level of expansion, that 4,000-foot buffer is going to shrink. You know what I mean? That brings the residences even into more close contact with potential things that could be going on based on where the restrictive covenant boundaries land. We don't know that, you know what I mean? And I'm not going to make a decision based on that or make a motion based on that, but it gives me pause with kind of just approving this thing so quick. I know we can't, it's beyond the purview of us to do right here to be wheeling and dealing like that. This is probably something that should be discussed at the Board of County Commissioners, hint, hint for everybody in the room, tying this sort of thing to the timing of this new study and those new boundaries coming out. But, you know, yeah, I'm not totally sold, and I'll probably listen to a couple more of my commissioners before I make my final mental decision here. But it seems to me that there's an unknown risk right there in that RC expansion that it seems like it could be a little bit hairy if it doesn't go the right way for the studies that they do. And I know you can't speak to that. That's something that's graying in the future. But, you know, any thoughts that you might have on any of that, on the things that I'm saying, and put my mind at ease maybe some here?
we anticipate potentially a larger plume. I can't say how big.
How big, yeah.
At this point, it's a risk for the developer.
Right. Ms. Ornita?
Can I ask a
Yeah.
question? How long does the study take?
I would, by the time it's approved by the EPA,
No said.
I'm not exactly sure, at least 12 months.
Okay. All right. Well, I'll listen to some more dialogue here. Let me go to Commissioner Kona first, and then I'll come to you, Commissioner Sieben.
Yep. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just want to thank everyone for coming out. It's not lost on us. I appreciate your advocacy, and I know this site has, in my year of being on the board, this has been the most, I would say, environmentally poorly taken care of property that we've seen, and your concerns are real, and I think they're valid. One thing I will say is, our scope in this is very, very small, and I think what I am, optimistic on is, regardless of whether we vote this consistent or not, it's still going to the county commission on Thursday, and their vote has way more effect than us. I do appreciate that we have an owner in place that is willing to take such a risk to actually mitigate a disaster that the county probably should have taken care of a long time ago. So I do think that if anything, if this property ever gets mitigated, it's going to be because of the owners and not necessarily the county. So I think, sending this on, the only chance that this property, I think, has to get fixed is to make sure that you have an owner that that understands what needs to happen, because I don't think anything is going to get built unless the property gets mitigated. So I'm gonna move to pass this on. I'm gonna make a motion to pass this on, but I do think that I think you guys need to keep fighting it, because this is a problem and somebody needs to fix it. So
All right.
thanks.
Well, I'll come back to you when it's time for motion, sir. Commissioner Sieben.
I just want to say I personally have worked on a remedial action plan with the EPA previously, and they are very intense and serious sticklers, and you have to jump through about 1 million hoops, and it takes forever, years and years of testing and monitoring. And I have a lot of faith in the EPA to do a lot to protect us. So just in case that gives you all, any vote of confidence or solace, I think they are looking out for us. And in addition, I just wanted to mention, there have been some questions tonight about our motivations as a board, and somebody said something about lining the county's pockets, and just knowing the people up here, I want you guys to know that we're not paid for this. This is a volunteer position. We're not looking to get elected to anything. We were appointed to these seats. And so, we spend a lot of time reading and reviewing these things. And I think everyone up here does this because we care about sustainable growth of the community. And so I think it's maybe worth considering that when you guys are talking about how we interpret these things and the ways in which we hear your feedback and vote accordingly.
Well said, Commissioner Sieben. Well said. Commissioner Locke, I see you buzzing over here.
Thank you. Commissioner Kona stole all of my thunder. I wanted to thank all the neighbors for coming out tonight. The feedback that you provided and the concerns that you have are real. And I'm frankly concerned about the purview of this board. You heard a hint regarding county commission later this week, coming soon to a theater near you, where that purview is very much expanded, and they're able, that board body is able to look at things outside of the control and purview of this board. So if the limitations or the scope of this board were different, my vote would be different tonight, based on some of the things that I've heard. But because of the limitations and the scope of it, I will be supporting the motion that Commissioner Kona makes.
All right, good points, Commissioner Locke. All good points. Are there any, Commissioner Cardenas, please.
Yeah, I am curious about a couple things. That 5-year report, the last one had mentioned the DAX and checking to see if it was in the groundwater. What has the timing been on the testing for that, and what does that look like?
The sampling completed to complete that report is done twice a year.
Mm-hmm.
So those we are continually sampling and reporting. We build that data set and then we report it to the EPA once every 5 years.
So since that 5-year time period,
That's still stable, non-migrating is the line
so it
I'll
hasn't
use.
been found in the groundwater? Or
No,
it
it's in, the contaminants listed in
Mhm.
the document, benzene, it's late,
Yeah.
chlorethane, some.
Okay.
The chemicals are there, the concentrations are about the same, they're in the same place.
Yeah, I guess the report said to test for dioxin in the present
Oh,
groundwater.
I'm sorry, that's a different.
That was
so-
a different one,
So
yeah.
the 1,4-dioxane is a known carcinogen and kind of has bubbled up to the surface, not literally, into a new and known threat. So we actually went to EPA and asked if we could delineate that plume, and we're given permission to start in January.
Got it.
And to be clear, the county has cleaned up a lot this site. We removed all the sludge. We constructed a slurry wall around the bad area. We've done a lot of work. And we had a pump and treat system in place for many years. That's where you withdraw groundwater, put it through filters, and put it back in. We think that was very successful. We've gotten the contaminants down to very low levels. And the EPA gave us permission to do it's a natural attenuation plan is where we're at now. So again, we have kind of kept the bad stuff in one place, and we're watching it.
So, part of what we end up doing here is having to do a lot of community outreach. So I'm curious, what do you guys do in reference to working with these people and talking to them and letting them know what you're doing and what you're not doing and how it's going?
Right. So unfortunately, our job is to report to the EPA, who owns it's a Superfund site, so it's under their umbrella.
Got it. Okay, I think part of this for us, obviously, is, we end up having to make decisions on different things in reference to, having to do with just the overall plan. As we're looking at these, I'm sitting here and I'm listening to all you guys speak to us, and it's definitely a pushback in the context of, man, what's going on? Is this getting done or is this not getting done? Are these people, are they safe, right? That's what we think about. It's really funny because Jake is great. He comes up here all the time and he gives a great presentation. We have people that come up here and give us presentations all the time, and Jake is one of the best, and he provides just a great way of delivering information to us so that we can see it in different perspectives. But I think part of what I didn't see there is a lot of answers that you guys are looking for, which is really just safety, health, right? And I think, part of just the conversation that we had here is just, it's the county that does it. It's the county that's doing it. It's not necessarily the owner. And at the same time, are they necessarily providing you guys information on what they're doing and what they're not doing? I think there's just a big disconnect there and what's missing in the transmittal of that information. So I just want to put that out there so you guys all have a thought and understand that as we're up here and we're trying to make decisions, some of this to move forward to get taken care of, it needs to move to next steps. So it's really hard for us to listen to you guys and hear this stuff, especially this box that you guys brought up here that's beeping, and we're listening to it, and we're up here and we're like, wow, these rocks are out here, and this is, they're going to build a house there. That's flat out freaky. It really is. It's just scary. It really is. So, it's hard decisions that we get put into having to make, and again, we're not getting paid to make the hard decisions. But at the same time, if moving forward with something like this is part of what gets them to take the next steps, which would force something to get cleaned up or something to happen, or potentially something to not happen, potentially for them to move forward and say, no, we can't do anything with this site because we're trying and it's just not possible. If that's what it is, well, it's got to reach that next step for them to be able to do that. Doesn't necessarily mean I'm going to vote for it, but it just means that that's what happens in the process. So I just want to share that information, try to help.
All right, Commissioner Seaman.
I do have a question. Why is the county the one monitoring the site as opposed to the owner?
The county took the role as the responsible party. during
In perpetuity, or?
Yes.
Oh.
Well, I don't know. That's a long time. The county was the owner of the land. We operated the landfill. So there were other principal responsible parties, and I can't remember exactly the history right now. It's in the report, but we assumed the role of maintaining the cleanup and the monitoring.
So would that continue even
Oh,
post-development of the residential portion?
I think Melissa said this is not, the Superfund site is kind of like, not, yes, it goes on forever.
That's good to know. Also, okay, so assume the plume isn't decreasing, it's expanding, or just say it's staying stable, the plume for this new carcinogen. Will anyone be able to develop if the plume is stable, or are you only going to be able to develop the residential portion once the plume starts decreasing in size?
Oh, I don't know the risk. I'm not ready to answer.
Okay.
I will. So, can you say the question again?
Sure.
Okay.
So there's a plume associated with this toxin, and my question is development going to be able to happen if the plume stays the way it is, or will development only be able to happen once the plume starts decreasing, or once it goes away completely, or like sort of how does that work, I guess?
I will. I can't. I don't know.
Okay. Okay. Thank you.
All right.
I'm happy to answer that.
Okay. Go ahead, Mr.
Sure.
Kramer.
Thank you, Jake Kramer. So that goes back to the concept someone mentioned earlier of the institutional control. So the way you think about it is the Superfund site itself is really small. It's like 9 acres. So that's where the most intense controls are. You really can't do much at all on that. And then it gets larger, so eventually you have about a 350-acre institutional control. You can do things over that plume, like, for example, industrial. Right? Industrial is actually pretty easy to build on top of contaminated land because of the protections you can put in place. Right now, there could not be residential, there could not be a school, there could not be most types of parks where we're going to have kids digging in the dirt. That's kind of the idea. Those uses cannot be in the institutional control area. That's in perpetuity. Eventually, it could get to a state where EPA could decide, but it would be their decision. And then outside of that, as Kevin mentioned, EPA has essentially made the decision that it is safe for residential currently, based on what they currently know.
So just to clarify, currently, outside of this, 350
Roughly.
Is it acres? That radius, I guess, you're allowed to develop residential at the moment.
At the moment, now that still has to go to DEP and EPC as well as the county's environmental division. So all of those other it's just the EPA
but
is
EPA
limited.
has determined that you can build outside of that. Okay.
Yes,
All right.
under their standards.
Thank you.
All right. Are there any other questions? Yeah, Commissioner Soria.
A couple of questions. First of all, the entire 3,000 acres is considered Superfund under the EPA, or is it just?
No, sir. The Superfund site is the 9 acres.
9 acres
Think of it
only.
as a bullseye.
Okay.
It's the red circle in the middle. That's the Superfund site.
All right. And another question. This is a planned development PD, and there's a comment by the EPC staff that says any use, reuse, development has to go through Florida Department of Environmental Protection and US EPA. So in that case, since it's a PD, can't it be just go through that process first and then have a confirmation through them first
Before this?
Yeah, because since it's a planned development, there's already a alteration plan, the idea of what needs to be done. So would that be something be considered, or that again depends on?
So the original rezoning is from 2010.
Yeah.
15 years later, a lot has changed, right? So right now, as I was explaining to Commissioner Lauk, there is a modification to that plan development zoning in for review right now. As part of that review, they also send out agency review requirements, please comment on this rezoning. There'll also be conditions of approval as part of that zoning that will get updated to reflect the current environmental situation.
Yeah.
And working with the rest of the county staff, environmental services, DEP, EPC, they're all talking. So that would all be memorialized in conditions. But in order to get the modification to the zoning, they have to start here first, because in order to find, to get, the zoning happens after the text is laid out, because we need the text to be effective.
All right.
To say whether the development proposal in the rezoning is consistent with that text or not. So if for instance, if the board denied this and then Jake Kramer and his team came in with a rezoning for 1,200 homes on that site, we would have to say it's inconsistent because the language doesn't reflect the residential use in that way. So they're starting here to change the text, and that will help facilitate the rezoning and everything else down the line.
All right. And one last question. There are a lot of sites in state of Florida that are considered Superfunds. Are there any historical data that any of the Superfunds have been approved for residential usage, or just for an example, like, okay, this is the bullseye, but how far have you built around it?
I would say no residential ever on a Superfund site in the foreseeable future. However, there's a line. That's your question. There's a line, and the
Yes,
EPA has
like-
drawn the line at that 354-acre boundary.
Okay.
Okay, yeah.
All right. But there are other Superfund sites outside that boundary that residential has been approved and
No.
Like in the state of Florida?
I don't think anybody would allow development on a Superfund, on the 9 acres, any that I know of. I don't think a site's ever, I'm not aware of any Superfund
it's kind of
site.
like a nuclear reactor that existed. So in that area you cannot, but outside that 350-mile radius, you can build residential.
Yes.
All right. Thank you.
Commissioner Sieben.
Sorry, I promise I'm almost done. Mr. Kramer, is there any disclosure that needs to happen for anyone who's purchasing a home, like right outside that 350-acre radius? Do you know?
There will definitely be disclosures. Having worked on dozens and dozens of residential communities, if we get to that step years from now, there will absolutely be disclosures. Someone mentioned radon, for example. The Florida statutes actually have a required disclosure about radon, so as one example.
Okay, thank you.
All right. Lots of good discussion, lots of good questions. Are there any other questions or comments from the commissioners before I shut down the public comment on this one? I see Commissioner Lauk sat back, so I think that's it. Sieben and Lauker sat back, so I think that's the end of the dogfight. So we'll close the public comment on this one then, and I'll send it over to Commissioner Kona so that he can make his motion.
Okay, this is I appreciate actually Commissioner Lauk's clarifying questions, because it made the decision a little bit easier for me to do. But this is the first step in a very long journey that I hope eventually gets this property cleared up, and hopefully all of your concerns get addressed. So I'm going to make a motion to find HCCPA 2406 consistent with the comprehensive plan.
All right, Commissioner Lauk?
Second.
All right, motion of consistency by Commissioner Kona. Second to that motion by Commissioner Lauk. Are there any questions, comments, discussions? Oh, Commissioner Cardenas? Oh, no, just waiting to vote. All right, then would all signify their agreement by saying aye?
Aye.
Those opposed? Aye.
No. Aye.
So that's Joseph, Cardenas, Soria. And it passes as consistent with Kona, Lauk, Sieben, and Bowden behind it. So 4-3, motion passes consistent. And with that, at 7:58 p.m., this meeting is adjourned. Good evening, everyone.